Well, all the people that I've met, they're like the lads who really do it for a living proper. Like the other day, the steam hammer men in Sheffield. No talking, you know, like a team, perfectly rehearsed in every move, you know. When they were placing the punch in the middle of the billet of white hot iron, like the hammer man, he can get it that way, so he's happy. The hammer driver can get it the other way, and he will like signalling to him just like that, you know, just a bit further, you know, and then when it were right, boom.
Fred Dibnah's real heroes were the ordinary workers and labourers, the people like him who got their hands dirty. From the labourers and stonemasons who built great medieval castles and cathedrals to 20th century coal miners, mill workers and steel workers. He will always be remembered for the respect he had for all those people who earned their living from making things. Wherever Fred went, it was always the workers that he related to.
This is really my period, you know, the beauty and splendour of it all, you know. I don't like there'd been a maintenance man here, you know, it must have been very pleasurable coming to work every morning and fettling bits of furniture up. Now then, I believe you've got a squeaky caster somewhere.
Oh, Dibnah.
Ah.
Remove your cap, please.
Oh, yes.
Thank you. Now, would you have a look at this, sir? I think there's something wrong with the caster down there.
Right, I'll have a go. Excuse me, Mr. Churchill, while I sort this chair leg out.
Well, he was a comedian. He was a comic. You saw this diminutive, flat-capped character, a working man, who typified the northern mill towns, whether it be Lancashire or the West Riding, up to just really a short time ago.
Best fish and chips in the country.
Oh, you soon managed that, didn't you?
You had members of your family like him. You certainly had friends like him. You went into the local pub sort of 25 years ago, and there was a guy like Fred in the corner, flat cap on, probably a dirty face. Fred was the epitome of that true grittiness of the north.
Well, that must be the best fish and chips in England.
Pretty blunt, down to earth, and you knew what you saw is what you got.
But half of them men in London, them fancy bloody suits on, and the fancy shirts and all that, are long for this, really. You know, they might make a lot of money, but the bloody stress of it all must be terrible.
Fred kept reminding us of the importance of manufacturing industry and of the hard graft of ordinary working people.
Isn't it funny how everybody who does forging, when they've actually used the bloody tool, you know, they just drop it on floor, you know.
Well, he's like that.
Yeah.
Don't bite when it should go.
I'm like that. Where's it gone, you know? Where's the tongues gone, you know? Bloody hell, it's disappeared.
You put everything away, you know where it is next time.
Oh, yeah. Well, I've got to say, how long have you been here, like? You know, have you been here a long time?
Well, about 28 years, me.
Yeah.
I've been in the industry all my life. 64 now.
Yeah, when we were talking about it before, you said you've been made redundant 3 times, but no problem getting another job, like. Yeah.
Last time I got made redundant here in 1999.
Yeah.
They closed it down altogether. No work for it.
Yeah, and then...
Then our managing director bought it. Sent for us back, me and Paul.
Yeah.
We've been here last 4 years, is it, Paul?
It's all these bloody third-rate nations, isn't it, who cock everything up for us. Same with everything, isn't it, you know. In my opinion, for every man in England trying to earn a decent living, there's 3 men who are paid by government, but God knows how much a week can have a car, to say you cannot do this way, you can't do it that way, you know. But them buggers in foreign countries, it don't matter about them.
This job used to be a good job years ago, weren't it, Bo? We used it's a really good paid job, and it's crap now. I'm not keen to.
Yeah, well,
For what we get,
for
they
hanging
can
on
go
to your
sweet
job,
treats.
really. Yeah.
It is. It's rubbish. Rubbish.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
For what we do. You don't
Yeah,
pay-
it's
you
a
don't pay
highly
enough for
skilled
what we
bloody
do,
job.
like,
Yeah. Somehow or other, I've always been attracted to dangerous, dirty things, you know. Like,
What do you call it?
heavy and dirty and dangerous. Women. I mean, it must be dead scary if I come into a place like that, you know, and see, well,
There seems to have been a problem with people who'd actually worked in an industry being valued for the work that they did, that they never sort of felt happy to talk about their work or that sort of thing. And I think that it's one of Fred's biggest sort of pluses, is that he made it okay for the normal worker to value his place in society.
There used to be 32 hammers, you know, from 500 weight up, you know.
yeah, on a big roll.
There were 2,000 men worked here at one time.
Deadwood then, when they were all banging away. They're all ground shaking.
Well, they were all terrace houses all round, then none of them could sleep when big hammers were on nights.
Yeah, well, you know, it's weird that, because I was born next to a marshalling yard, you know, a shunting yard. And all night long it was like, remember when I was little, you know, bang, 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 bang,
Yeah.
woof, 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 woof. And you just got used to it, you know.
You do, it's not like somebody living inside the railway, isn't it?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. And a lot of people really don't realise the amount of effort that goes into making something out of iron, you know. I mean, I had a fella in here who owns an engineering works the other day, you know, come in a fancy suit and a tie on and his own personalised registration number on his car. The thing is, he looked at the tank outside and he said, have you made that? You know, I said, I have. And he said, you know, a lot of people would look at that and they would just would appreciate the amount of effort that's actually gone into making it, you know. It's a very complex piece of ironwork, really, if you study it. All them lovely curves and bends, you know, like, we've lost all that now. The modern way would be a butt joint like they build ships and a great knobbly welded seam down the bloody corner, you know, sort of thing. I can't be doing with that myself, you know.
Fred believed in going out working desperately hard, in earning a decent amount of, adding a certain amount of brass for it, as he would put it. He weren't bothered about working nights, weren't bothered about working weekends. Saturday and Sunday were just the same. He'd work a 7-day week if he had to do.
Yeah, we've got behind you is the big mill. Yeah. That's where we do the network rail, all the railway lines for them.
If he got onto a site of a mill or an iron foundry or whatever, he could soon get involved, he could soon do a job, and they'd let him have a do, and he'd do an absolute superb job of it.
And there was nobody better than Fred at talking to ordinary working people, like the retired steel workers he met at Workington.
But in the old days, of course, they had to manhandle the pieces with a fork about 12 foot long.
I know, yeah.
And
bloody hot.
and there was before the mill was electrified, it was steam driven.
Yeah, yeah.
And at the finishing rolls, sometimes there were 3 high. And there was one particular job where there was a lift driven by hydraulics, and there was only 2 or 3 fellas could do it. One was a fella called Bob Jeffrey, and if he slept in and out, they always used to send for him to come out, like, you know.
I know exactly what you mean, because getting it up to that bloody 30-second gap up. In Walmsley's Forge in Bolton, they had like a chain hanging down off a girder with a big hook on a big long handle. Just as it were coming out, under about last 5 foot of it, and then it went, the machine kept shoving it, and then it shoved it out of plumb, the chain, and then it come back on its own, like bang, and you know.
And as the tail end came out, these lads with tongs used to grab hold of it, whipping it to the next pass and away.
I'll tell you something. They made it look dead easy, didn't they? But they said, give you tongs and have a go. Bloody hell, it wasn't that easy. They had bloody couches and easy chairs. And when they'd done so many passes, they all like flocked into them. Couches in this rolling mill, they were nice.
You ought to never been sleep by now.
Yeah, I know. And they had a propeller off an aeroplane, ridden with a belt, going round and round, keeping them cool. Like there would have fan in there, but it were on to the side at rollers, you know.
One man.
It's quite frightening, really, isn't it, if you watch it? You know, if you realise what could happen to you, you know, if it went wrong.
Well, I was one of a group who was injured in 1962 when this ladle of iron fell. This shackle had been used, which wasn't really supposed to be used. It was a bit like the straw that broke the camel's back. After several times, it broke and the ladle was up. It was only a small emergency ladle with 4 ton in, but of course, came down. And oddly enough, I was in charge of the job at the time, and I got knocked down in the rush. I put my hands out to save myself, and even though I was a junior manager, if you like, I'd never been frightened to use a shovel, and I had fairly horny hands. And I remember the skin started peeling off like blotting paper, and I'd only had my first car about 3 weeks before. I thought, oh Christ, I'm not going to be able to drive my car.
I'll tell you what, look, most of this world is, you know, normal people. They never burn themselves, because they never do it like that. But it bloody hurts, doesn't it, you know, it soon takes bloody skin off, like.
He had a very happy knack of asking the right questions, the sort of things you would want to ask. And above all, there was that extraordinary respect he had for the people and what they were doing, and in turn he was respected by them, and you had a really good interchange when he visited somewhere, and you felt you were really learning what was going on.
I'd done a few weaving sheds when, you know, on chimneys. And I know I used to go in and think, God, you know, like the noise, you know, sort of thing.
Very noisy.
All day long, yeah. How many, when you first started, how many of these did you, I know each weaver looked after so many, you know.
I had two loom, and
yeah.
then I got 4, then I got 5, and then I got 6.
Blooming heck.
And then I finished up running 8.
Yeah, 8? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's halfway down, isn't it?
We used to start at 7 and finish at 5:30.
Yeah. And how long for lunch?
An hour.
Yeah.
Half an hour for breakfast, an hour for lunch. And we used to work Saturday mornings. 7 o'clock till 11:30.
Yeah.
You know. I thought they were happy days.
Yeah, well, the people go on about the bad old days and all that.
Well, I don't know. Personally, I don't know why. You had to work, but like I say, hard work don't kill nobody, does it?
No. So. Most of England have never seen one of these things running.
No.
When you do see it going and the speed things go at and how it shakes about, you know, the maintenance levels on it must have been, you know, quite frightening. You know, they only had one man in here running up and down, looking after them all. And would there be a few like?
Oh no, there were a tackler to every set.
Yeah. Oh well.
They might have about 60 or 70 loom.
Yeah.
When I were a weaver help, I had 80 loom to look to.
How long did it take you to learn when you first came? You know?
8 weeks, and I was homeless.
And you,
one day she shoved me to the end of the alley. She said, "You go homeless."
You go homeless.
Anyway, manager come, and after you'd learnt to weave, you went to help a man to run 6 looms.
Yeah.
And then you got looms of your own.
Yeah.
Well, time went on, years went on, and I started learning people myself.
Yeah.
And her what learnt me, she said, "Evelyn, I never thought I'd have seen day when you were learning somebody to weave." She said, because you were a homeless little devil. I used to come home every night, and I used to be heartbroken.
Yeah.
And I was brought up with my grandma. And she said, "You can cry, you're going."
You didn't want to go to work again?
No, you know. Anyway, I couldn't take ends up. These are ends through here. I could set the loom on, pull back, pull a piece up, but I couldn't take the ends up.
Yeah.
And all at once, penny dropped. And when I got used to it, I loved it.
Yeah.
She said, "Well, do you want to give over?" And I said, "No, do I, Grandma?" And I earn good money.
I think for Fred, the most important people in history have always been the ordinary men and women. And he also remembers that it wasn't just the adults, but there were children as well who were often involved in industrial production. And he recognises their input as much as the great achievements of their parents.
Well, that's right. This is where the kids worked.
Yeah.
So you got... It's a nice day here to come here today, actually, because you get a proper, authentic feeling of it.
Did they never have a roof?
No.
How many of them would there be here on this spot actually working?
Maybe 30, 40, something like that. So if you and I were kids,
Yeah.
which we're not, but
Yeah.
if we were, what we got to do is tip the stuff under here, right?
Right. Is it then?
There we go.
Yeah. And then what?
Now then, you and I got to work.
Yeah.
All right? We're going to wash this stuff.
Yeah.
Here, have a rake. What would you call that?
Garden hoe.
No, coal rake they call that.
Oh, right.
A coal rake. So we
And the idea is that...
wash it across in the water, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And we're,
Yeah, and all the muck disappears down there.
yeah, so you can see what you got in here, can't you?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, this is poor stuff.
There's not many shiny bits.
He did stand at the forge. You know, he did work with trowel and hammer and chisel, and so he wasn't just talking about it, saying, wasn't it a wonderful era? He knew the era well enough with warts and all. So it wasn't just saying, you know, some romanticised sense of the past. He knew how difficult the past was, because he largely lived there.
So you smash up your bits with your bucker.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah. How old would they be when they were actually doing that?
You'd start work here when you're maybe 9, maybe 10-year-old. And you'd graduate when you were about 18.
Yeah.
You'd graduate to down the mine.
City and Guilds apprenticeship for lead ore crushing.
This is your main weapon.
Yeah.
Of separation.
Yeah.
So
It's a pretty. And how did a little lad manage to get hold of the end of there?
well, you can kind of jump up and get a hold of it.
Yeah.
This thing's called a hotching tub.
Is it?
Yeah. This is. You got a sieve.
Yeah.
Suspended in a tub of water like that.
Yeah.
And you put all your broken bits in the sieve.
Yeah.
And then you jiggle that up and down
Yeah.
at the end of this arm here.
Yeah. It looks a bit painful, doesn't it?
Do you want to give it a go?
Yeah, I will. I'll pretend that.
Pretend you're about 11-year-old.
Yeah. Well, that's really harder than the.
Than the other action, yeah.
I bet you'd be absolutely goosed after the end of the day.
Poor little kids, eh?
Yeah.
Doesn't bear thinking about, really, does it?
I think everybody knew he was very much one of the people who was understanding industrial England and all the engineering wonders. But then he was able to transpose that backwards and to get an understanding of so many of those anonymous medieval craftsmen who were building castles, who worked brilliantly with stone and with timber to create amazing structures which are still with us.
This side of the castle, without a doubt, is the best side to show the various stages of construction of it. I mean, it's very obvious if you look at the main wall, you can see at the bottom of it, it's quite rough stonework, you know, obviously and possibly done by the soldiers while still under attack. Later on, when they had more time and a bit of protection from the bottom wall, they've completed the top 25 or 30 feet in a much better fashion, you know, better stone masonry and everything. And then, of course, last but not least, the outer curtain wall or the outer wall will be built later on when they could disappear inside if the enemy were approaching and sort of leave the mortar and the trowels behind.
He's very interested in the practical side of historic buildings, and that's very important because the scholars will write about the theory of architecture or the theory of engineering. Fred was interested in how the ordinary artisans and craftsmen built the buildings, and that's what's really interesting.
When James of St George and the King built these castles, spirit levels hadn't been invented, you know. And of course, if you go around and look at the moulds and look at the bed joints of the masonry, it's perfect, you know, perfectly level with the water, which of course water finds its own level. The thing is that there wouldn't be any water, of course, in the moat when they built the place, and the only things they had were things like this, basically a stick, the piece of string with a lead weight on the end, and of course a nice hole that received the lead weight, and a line drawn up the middle. And of course, when you put it on the wall like that, if the wall is plumb, the lead weight will hang perfectly central in the hole, you see. If it leans, of course, you know, the ball's in the wrong shot. And that's how they got everything vertical. I mean, you can actually compare it with a modern spirit level, and of course, you know, bang on, you see, it's perfect. We've not improved that much, really, have we?
he was always very good at acknowledging people who had names, but also those who didn't, the extraordinary, the medieval craftsmen whose work we now see, who achieved miracles, really, with very simple techniques and very modest use of tools and very primitive working conditions. And I think he himself, and he'd of course come from a background where hard work was what you did and how you understood it, and he was able to couple that basic business of the day's work with the vision and enterprise of much greater things. And I think he had a very happy knack of putting those two together.
If you look closely at the wall, you can see two rows of holes, one going up and one coming down. And they would have had the put logs in, which are, in other words, the scaffolding supports. And there'd have been an inclined plane up one side and one down the other. I rather think that would have been done that way, instead of just having a single way up and same way down, to sort of facilitate the work to go smoother, you know, because the materials would go up one side and the men, after they'd unloaded them on the top on the wall, would come down the other side just with the sledges and the boxes and the bits of rope and tackle. This, of course, would save a lot of bother with. There'd always be some Charlie who'd sort of start an argument, you know, you got in my way, and shove the other guy off or something like that. So really the work it would run very smoothly with a system like that, I think, anyway.
And he could put himself in the shoes of the craftsmen, of the people actually making this thing, rather than the way that most historians would tackle it, which would be to put themselves in the shoes of the monks who had commissioned it, or of the rich people who were paying for it. He was actually there in the shoes of the person putting it up there on the scaffold and wondering, is this damn thing going to fit? It's great.
When most people think of cathedrals, they think of stonemasons, you know, but there's a bit more to it than that. There were as many joiners, I would rather think, as stonemasons, and they would come into various categories, you know, the guys who carved the beautiful wooden mullions on the lantern, and of course stonemasons who did all the lovely tracery for the windows, and then the other branch would be the rough guys who did the infill in the walls, you see. And of course down here on this grass at that time, it would be an hive of industry. There would be, they would have built themselves a few wooden shacks to shelter under during the winter months, and I suppose a greater part of the work on the walls would be done in the summer, you know, because of the, you know, the sunshine and the good weather. It's really quite a magnificent thing when you look at it. And of course you can see just by observation that it must have took them a long time. And of course, not to mention the plumbers, also the lead roof and all the downspouts, all of them would be made more or less on site, you know, with the lead burners, you know, magic art of burning lead together, you know, like soldering in a way. I mean, there's lots of modern examples of that all over this place if you're an observer, you know, and look around.
Fred was showing the history of the common man. He was showing what people achieved in their everyday lives and bringing it to the forefront of our knowledge, which is great, really.
At Culzean Castle, Fred looked at the work of the stonemasons.
When this place was being built, you know, there'd be a hive of activity, of course, and there'd be dozens, literally dozens of stonemasons. The thing is, this is a wonderful wall to sort of depict different styles of workmanship on producing the squared off blocks of stone. I mean, it's obvious that the same man made this here, these doge arms, you know, each side. It's the same style of chiselling, and of course they dropped a bit of a clanger here. There were going to be another niche like that, but they obviously changed their mind and bunged it up. Here there's a wonderfully detailed one here that obviously the guy who made that would only do one. And the bloke who made this one would more than likely do three, you know, because it's pretty rough, you know, sort of thing, or he were in a hurry to go home for his tea or something of that nature. But it is certainly a good example of showing masons different styles of, you know, using the punch and the mallet and the various fancy chisels that they had.
If we want to cut a piece of stone for that wall, we've got to sort it.
Yeah.
We've got to put a new face on it. And also alter the shape and the finish on the top and bottom bed and the joints.
Yeah.
I'll try not to hit my hand.
Yeah.
Because that's always a bonus.
Yeah. Never ever stop learning, you know. You can have a bad teacher, a bad workman who you're suffering under, or a good one, and you'll learn a lot, you know. And you can learn a lot more from an artist or an engineer if you're working with him than you can picking a book up and reading it. Believe me, you know. I mean, I learned how to do all this by being shown by another man stood at the side of me. I mean, you've got to read books to get the basic gist of it, but, you know, you can't really do it just from the book. Can I have a go?
You certainly can have a go. Spin it around and you can work from that side.
One of the most important things about Fred is that he didn't come across as some enthusiast, just going on with it, about some engine, whereas, you know, you tend to say, well, you wouldn't say that if you'd had to work with them and clean them out at 3 o'clock in the morning. Because he did work with them and he really did know. He really was the hands-on guy. And his sense of empathy and connection with Victorian workers and engineers, I think, was so important. Because it's easy to say, yes, but they had short, nasty lives and they all got TB or died of asbestos or whatever it was. But the point is, he understood that their work was still had an immense pride in it. The people might have been tired and working long hours, but they still put beauty and quality into what they were doing, and it was that sense that he connected with.
He was good on the crafts, because I think we tend to think of the working class in the 19th century as being always in a mill, in a factory, down a mine, and of course a lot of them were, but there was a very big artisan class of people, very like Fred, who were highly skilled, quite independent-minded. Some of them had training, some of them, like Pugin, who he talked about, actually had no particular education and were largely self-taught. And they had to learn how to solve problems and evolve their own kind of standards and ideas. And they're not the sort of people, of course, who leave behind a lot of written records. They weren't the kind of book writing and letter writing classes. But I think he really brought to life again their spirit when he looked in detail at the way in which the things they'd made had been made.
I think really that you know, I think I'd have been all right in the Victorian period, you know, putting aside all the poverty and the awful things that there were then, you know, hardly any money, you know. I mean, now anybody can say that, you know, the money business, the wages come into it. I mean, they couldn't have made wonderful things like they did if they hadn't liked it, I don't think, you know. I mean, now people are on a lot more money now, but the unhappiness is rife, innit, you know, like all this stress at the office and things like that, you know. I don't think they had time to be stressed, them men, you know. They were always busy, weren't they, you know. I think I'd have been all right in the Victorian era, you know.